What's going on? I'm Jackson Schneider, and welcome in once again to 92.3 Preps. This is episode number 5 of our show, and we are continuing to grow and expand our show in terms of our reach. Really happy with the reception from you all so far. It's been really fun to kind of see this thing start to catch a little bit of momentum with some of the interest that we've had in our interviews, and especially for today's show. Very excited about some of the guests that we've got today. 2 great head coaches and 2 coaches that have been nominated, as well as their teams have been nominated for honorary ESPYs. And if you're unfamiliar with our honorary ESPYs, we give out awards for athletics here in the Wichita area. And nominations for our honorary ESPYs are actually wrapping up today. There's still time as we release this show today. Nominations close, I believe, at about 6 p.m. tonight, Friday the 19th. Our nominees will turn to finalists, and then finalist voting will begin next week. And sooner or later, we will have our ESPYs winners. But we've got categories for male and female high school athlete of the year. We've got high school team of the year, high school coach of the year, and then we've got small college male and female and Division I male and female athletes of the year as well. And you can go to espnwichita.com/ESPYs and you can enter your nominations today. I know there's tons and tons of very worthy people, coaches, athletes, teams, everything that are, again, very worthy of recognition. But we got to pare those lists down after our nominees. So make sure you get your nominations in for those that you think are worthy for those accolades. But of those accolades, we've got some nominees in already, and I wanted to bring some of those on as guests. And today we're going to be joined by 2 fantastic state champion head coaches from this year. And we'll begin with the new head basketball coach of the Wichita Collegiate Spartans, Nate Schmitt. He was in his first year with the Spartans this year and took them off and running right away. And man, just a great story for him to get right to work and have this team that was clicking at the right time and played fantastic basketball all season and end up winning a state championship and one that returns Collegiate back to the top of the mountain, if you will, in high school basketball and here in Kansas. It is a program with a ton of history and a ton of tradition. And we'll talk about kind of the pressure that comes with that and the work that goes into building the program up back to where they want it to be and where they want to continue building forward as well into the future. But it's a fantastic chat with Coach Schmitt. He is absolutely awesome. Really enjoyed getting to know him just a little bit better on our interview, and we'll surely have him back on in the very near future. And then our second interview is with another state champion head coach, and that is with Weston Schartz, a longtime coaching figure here in Wichita, from Wichita West to Wichita Northwest, now with Kapaun. And Coach Schartz got Kapaun their 10th state title in school history this year, but it's Kapaun's first state championship since 1987. Got them back over the hump to be champions, and it is a fantastic story. He is a heck of an interview as well. I could talk to Coach Schartz all day long. I had to cut him off basically at around 20 minutes and say, we got to leave some of this discussion for another interview later on as we get closer to football season. But it's a great chat with him as well about his team this year and what they were able to get done and some of the things they kind of overcame from past years where they were very successful but fell flat and short of a state title, and how it helped them to grow into this past season to become state champions. So 2 great discussions with 2 great coaches, and again, 2 nominees for our Coach of the Year ESPY. And again, you can nominate coaches, athletes, and teams at espnwichita.com/ESPYs. But let's get to our first break here on the show today. When we come back, we will be joined by head coaches of Collegiate and Kapaun in Nate Schmitt and Weston Schartz. That's all next here on 92.3 Preps. Welcome back to 92.3 Preps. Jackson Schneider, pleased to be joined now by the head coach of the state champion Wichita Collegiate basketball team, and Nate Schmitt. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations first and foremost, again on a state championship season. I know you were just telling me it still feels surreal. It's been a few months since then. It hasn't set in yet?
Yeah, it is. I guess, when you have a 1-1, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what would that be like? And then if you win one, like, what's going to change? And, really it's, either it hasn't sunk in yet, or it's just, you accomplished it and, you enjoy it, and then you're back to work and like, okay, how do we run it back? Or, how did we do that? And, and now we're back at it in the summer and, doing what we can to try to get back there.
Well, that's one thing you said, you kind of wanting to get back to work and to run it back. So I want to start there because a lot of athletes or coaches at really every level, after they win like their first title, they're always talking about how much hungrier it makes them to get right back there again. Did you and your team kind of feel that right away? I mean, you're back in the gym, putting the work in now over the summer. It seems like, to me, just on that alone, you got a bunch of guys ready to go and trek up that mountain again.
Yeah, first of all, we did take some time and enjoy it, because I think it's a journey that everybody's after. And, there's a lot of players and teams and coaches that, sacrifice a lot to get the opportunity to accomplish what we did. And it doesn't always happen. So, I wanted to make sure that we took the time to enjoy it. But, it's back to work. And I want to be very clear when we say run it back, we're not trying to run back the outcome. We're trying to run back the process. There's a reason we had the success we had last year. And we were very consistent, and we were very good at what we did. And you look back at our 65 practices and you go back and chart them, 61, 62 of those were really good, and playing 28 games, we played pretty well in all of those games. So what we're trying to do with this group is just, we can't look ahead to March. We need to, win the day, win the day in the weight room, whether or not it's our skill session, our scrimmage, or a camp, whatever it is, just trying to win those small things and get a little bit better. And we feel like if we do that, the rest will take care of itself.
Now, obviously, you've got a team that has a ton of talent, but one of the guys that's really gotten a lot of kind of highlight from this past year, Sebastian Hines-Turner, and rightfully so. Tell us just a little bit about him and what he meant to this group, especially performing at such a high level in the state tournament to kind of shoulder the load in some big moments.
Yeah, well, first of all, with me getting here late last year and only having really 4 months to get to know some of these guys, since the season has slowed down and, Sebastian has graduated, selfishly, I've enjoyed just getting to know him more than anything. He's one of the funniest, most charismatic players like I've ever coached. He's FaceTiming me all the time. He's checking in on my daughters. My girls want to come see him at work, and, he's just real fun to be around and get to know, first of all. And, I think a lot of that in just who he is as a person, is why everybody was rooting for him, during the season. And what a remarkable story to, face the injury that he had as a junior and to come back and perform at the highest level on the biggest stage, in the state championship game. But I'm not sure I've ever really coached a player that can impact the game in every single area. Some guys can shoot it, some can score, some can rebound, you name it. But I mean, it very, very rarely did he ever step on the floor and he wasn't the best in every category. He was just, an all around, people like to throw around the word elite a lot, but he was, what made him elite was he could impact the game in every category.
Now, in terms of leadership, too, I feel like a kid like that comes back from an injury and, has to work really hard to get back just to be able to play, let alone play at a high level. That teaches some leadership qualities and having to miss time and learn from that aspect. Do you feel like that kind of helped get him a little bit further as well? As unfortunate as injuries can be, I feel like there's some positives that come from situations like that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of times as adults and coaches and just being in education in general, we're always telling kids to be leaders and be a leader, but we don't ever really show them how to lead, right? Or give them opportunities to lead. And for whatever reason, I have these just, these few moments in my mind of where we needed leadership more than ever in timeouts or huddles or when we're facing adversity or in a big game. And us coaches really didn't say much because, Seabass had commanded the huddle. He was taking over. He's being vocal. You knew he was locked in, and the other guys just kind of fed off of that, And I look at some of our biggest moments of the season, and he was leading us, right? It was, so many times you look back at the pictures from the state tournament, state championship game. The coaches are fairly calm on the bench. My arms are crossed and we're just taking it all in because Seabass is leading the way, and making everything happen. And so, reflecting back on that, like, those are things that we will talk about a lot in our program moving forward about, the way he led that team to a state championship.
Well, tell us a little bit more, Coach, about this group and some of the other guys that helped to get you to that state championship and to return collegiate basketball up to the top of the mountain where it's been so many times before. It's obviously it's a team game. It's not just
Yeah.
one guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you said it. Who are the guys that helped you to a state championship? The players led the way, right? Like they led the charge. They did this. They made it happen. We, behind the scenes, we did what coaches do, but we would say it all the time, a player-led team is better than a coach-led team. And we had a player-led team. Like our guys were good. And they loved basketball. And they did a great job. But I also think a lot of this, state championship stems from, Coach Fiegel and his previous staff and, just the history and tradition of collegiate basketball, right? This wasn't a walk in and a rebuild by any, I mean, this is, hey, here's the keys to something special, I mean, this is a great place. And then on top of that, just the Wichita Collegiate School and the collegiate community. I've said this so many times since I've been here, but they can really set you up to be successful here. I mean, this is an amazing place. It's not just the kids or a coach or a particular team or a department. Like it's the whole school and the whole community. There's just amazing people, and that's why this school's won and is as successful as it is, because of a combination of all of that. And so I think that's what makes this place so special.
Absolutely. And, for being at Collegiate in such a short time and to have already kind of seen things like that for you, that has to be special. And I know you came from a special place as well out in Lakin for where you coached for a long time. But what do you think the environment, the community around a school can do to elevate sports and maybe not just basketball, but just sports in general when you've got a strong support system inside and out? What can that do to elevate a school and its athletics?
Yeah, I mean, people always say it takes a village, and there's an amazing village here, and no matter what's going on or what the policy or the procedure is for things that happen in education, there are amazing people here, and the people figure it out, and the people they're good people. They're genuine. They care about you. They support you. They're positive. They're uplifting. They encourage you. I mean, it's I was here for 5 minutes and I knew why this was a special place, and it's because of the people here, and like I said, they'll do anything to support you, and they love their school, and they love their community, and they're always doing whatever it takes to, continue to make it better or improve it, or share the history and tradition about it, and it's just there's just a lot of great people here, and it was very evident from the very beginning, and I think that's what breeds the success here.
Again, we're visiting with the head basketball coach of the Wichita Collegiate Spartans in Nate Schmitt. Coach, looking back at this year, I love to ask coaches like the moment you win a state championship. Like there's a lot of emotions and there's that, like, it's surreal. I know, but take me through those emotions. The clock hits 0. It took a heck of an effort in that game against Burlington. I think I remember you guys being down at halftime, if I'm remembering that right.
Yeah.
So it's a heck of a battle. But what was that moment like? The clock hits 0. It's over. Just walk us through what that was like to experience.
Yeah. I was very confident. I think we were all very confident in our team. And then the way it started to play out, and as it got late in the fourth, and you kind of felt like, wow, like this might happen, and then, oh my gosh, I think this is going to happen, and it's happening. And so, you know, I don't know, like there's a lot of emotion, a lot of feelings. In no way was it about me, but I've invested a lot, to this game and my career, and I've had doubts at times, and wondered, am I ever going to get this opportunity? But that went so fast that it was just like, it's right back to the kids, and that's what got us here. And I just wanted to make sure that they enjoyed it, and they got the opportunity to celebrate it. And probably my favorite part was just kind of stepping back and, just watching them enjoy the moment, because not everybody gets that opportunity. But it was very special to me, to get to enjoy it with some of my really good friends and family, and, people that I've worked alongside and learned from. And my 3 little girls were there, and just, it was just an amazing feeling. You wish you could freeze the time. You wish you could just slow it down. And next thing you know, it's June and you're back at it again, and it just all goes so fast. But man, what an amazing experience. It was just, just kind of at a loss for words of that entire thing. It was great. Awesome experience.
And like you said, now we're here in June, and the calendar's flipped over, and you're working forward. So tell us a little bit about this new group. I mean, obviously there's a lot still to be done and a lot still to learn, but tell us kind of how the summer's started and what's taking place in your program as you work towards this next year.
Yeah. Obviously we have a group that everybody's going to get to see on Tuesdays and Fridays, but you mentioned it. It's a program, right? And so, we're doing something K-12, all summer. In fact, we started it in the spring, and I've used the word program a lot here. And if we want to, continue to grow the program and that sort of thing, like, it starts with the youth. So, we're doing a lot with our youth and our middle school, and obviously, our returning team. But, the weight room is extremely important to us, and we're lifting 4 days a week in June and July. And, if you're not in the weight room, you don't get to go in the gym. So, that's an important thing to us. We believe that unifies, not just a team, but an entire athletic department, right? Because we've got multi-sport athletes, and they need to be in there and becoming more athletic and getting stronger, for their other sports as well. And then on top of that, we did our camp here, which was, basically 3-4 days of practice. We're not changing anything either. We're going to play the same style, the same way. So it was just kind of a little bit of a refresher. We took 2 teams down to TCU's team camp, where we got to play, 4 games versus really good competition in Dallas and Arlington and Fort Worth. We got back. We do skills twice a week. We just competed versus Andover last night in kind of a joint practice scrimmage type thing. And we'll finish with the Friends team camp next week. So we're heavy in June, and then when we come back from the moratorium in July, it's weight room, and I think we have 25 guys between grades 7-12 that are playing on an area team. So then in July they go play with them, and like I said, we're big in June, and then we kind of give them a little bit of a break. And those guys that want to continue to play, we help them get on teams and continue to play. So
that's awesome. I know, the program aspect that you talked about is something that I always appreciate, because like, it's not always about right now and this team, right? It's about making something that's sustainable, and especially a place like Collegiate with the culture and the history that they have. How important do you feel it is to build off of that history and that program of the past and kind of put your own flair on it, but also elevating and continuing that sort of a tradition? And it kind of, like you said, little kids and beyond, you're trying to build something, right?
Yeah, when we make decisions, it's program, team, individual, right? Like that's how we decide, what's best. That's what we're always looking at is how can we grow this thing? When I first got here, I was like, what in the world am I going to do here to add value? This is already an amazing basketball program. And so, when we look at some of those things, we thought, what can we do with the middle school and the youth to grow the program? And I think right now, especially coming off of a state championship, people are excited about basketball. Kids are excited about basketball. There were kids that came to the games that know the players that were in the stands, and they were hopeful they want to be a part of that. They want to do that, and so offering things for them and having our players around them, and start to teach them what our expectations are in our offense and our defense. And one thing that we'd really like to do is kind of it's Wichita, so there's so many opportunities for kids, but how do we rein that in with our collegiate kids under one umbrella to where, at some point you walk into the Forum on a weekend and courts 1 through 6 are all collegiate teams, and they've got the same uniform, and, we're coaching them and they're picking up full court press and they're running our offense. And, where you walk, my gosh, like that's collegiate, you can tell. And so we have a ways to go to get there, but that's our vision. And so, we're just barely getting started with that. But right now it's lots of camps, and it's, being visible and going to their games and getting to know them. But that's something I'm very passionate about. And it's definitely something that I hope, down the road, that there's a Collegiate Youth Basketball Association for K-12, and you're going to know when collegiate's in the gym.
That's awesome, Coach. Before I let you go, I do have a couple of quick questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit, let our listeners get to know you as a person. But who would you say is your biggest basketball mentor?
Yeah, Ty Walker, he was my high school coach. And after I met him, I knew I wanted to coach. But JC Holloway, I worked with him, I coached under him. He's out in Lakin now, but obviously, played at Iowa State, and, I talk to him all the time, and he's a very, very good friend of mine. And it's kind of weird that, he recruited me, and then I was an assistant coach, and then we hired him at Lakin. And so then we worked together, and we've just spent a lot of time together. And then obviously Coach Fiegel, I know I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my relationship with him. And, so those 3 guys really come to mind when I think of that.
Awesome. And you've had obviously a lot of great players, not just in your short time at Collegiate, but in Lakin and in other stints you've had as your coaching career's gone on. But if you could pick one player that you've coached that stands above the rest, who you picking? I know that's a tough choice, but who's the one?
Well, I think the safe pick right now is Sebastian Hines-Turner because he's the one that helped us win a state championship. And again, man, I love my guys in Lakin and all the guys I was fortunate enough to get a coach there, and they're a big reason why I get to be the coach at Collegiate, because they were such good players. But man, this year's group that we had with Seabass and AJ and Kamari and Shad and Mason and those guys, like, man, they were what an incredible team, what an incredible group, and they all meshed so well together. And and Maddox, off the bench, and Jai as a freshman, and those guys, like, it just, man, what a fun team. And definitely Edge probably got to go to Seabass because won the championship. So yeah.
I'd say that's a pretty good answer. Those are those questions. There's no wrong answer anyway.
Right.
So you can win either way. But Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us in your busy June. Enjoy some time with the family and get some rest. Sounds like you've been busy. Try to kick your feet up a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, I gotta get ready to take my girls to swim lessons here in a minute. So no time for rest.
Awesome. Again, that is Nate Schmitt. He is the head boys basketball coach of the Wichita Collegiate Spartans. Coach, thank you again for the time. We'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll take a break and be back with more right after this here on 92.3 Preps, a presentation of ESPN Wichita. Welcome back to 92.3 Preps. Jackson Schneider here. Pleased to be joined by the head football coach of the Kapaun Crusaders, Coach Weston Schartz. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. And let me be the first to tell you in maybe a while, because I'm sure you've heard it a lot. Congratulations again on your state title this past fall.
Well, I'll tell you what, it never gets old, people telling you you had a good year and continuing to remember the year we had. It's been quite a ride. But you know what? We started camp a couple weeks ago, and we're back at it again.
Absolutely. Well, it was a big year, obviously, for you and your team to win a title, but for Kapaun, it's especially important. You know, I think it's the 10th title in Kapaun history, but it had been the first in almost 30 years, if I remember correctly. So a big moment for you and your school and community. Take us through just kind of what that was like to finally hoist that trophy and get to celebrate with this special group.
Well, it was our 10th title, which is quite an accomplishment. It was the first one in about 27, 28 years, almost 30. And from the very beginning of last year, we knew we had a special team. The year before, we went 7-3 and didn't play well in one of the playoff games and got beat early. We thought we had a chance just didn't get the job done. But these guys were hungry. Every day in the weight room, they did 13 push-ups for 13 games. Originally, I didn't know what the 13 meant. And finally asked one of the guys, I said, Coach, that means 13 games will be in the state championship. They were focused. They were led by a good group of seniors. The coaches were hungry. The community was very hungry. We've been able to do some things that they haven't done there in a long, long time. But that's because we've had good talent, good administration, good assistant coaches, and very good football players.
Absolutely. Some special guys on your group this year, and guys that I've talked to that are multi-sport athletes doing great things, and, you know, baseball and basketball as well. Let's talk a little bit about this group you had. Who were some of your key senior leaders that really kind of helped to push this group to the point where they, you know, eventually become state champions?
Well, you have to start with Cal Purvis, our middle linebacker, running back. He did a fantastic job of leading us every day at practice. He was vocal. He was first in the weight room, last to leave. He helped pick up things afterwards. He's just a winner. He did a fantastic job. Him and Cole Tarantino on the defensive side. And we have two monsters on the O-line, Landon Heiss and Nick Ancio. They're both in the Shrine Bowl. And then our fullback, Wyatt Solinger, was fantastic. But, you know, it was a team effort. We started probably 14 underclassmen, somewhere in there, 13 underclassmen. So we have a lot of them coming back. But we were definitely led by the seniors. And three of those guys are going on to play college. Cal going to Navy. Nick Ancio's at Tulsa right now, and Landon Heiss is at Butler County. So we were blessed with a lot of talent, and they were just fun to be around. And we've known for a long time that this would be a group that we could possibly do it with. 2 years ago, we had that same type of group. We got beat by Mill Valley. This year, we didn't want to taste defeat.
Well, that's something I kind of wanted to ask you about, was being so close a couple of times here recently with great teams and good seasons. You just fall a little bit short. But this year you went into that game and kind of have that monkey on your back, so to speak. And of course you're playing a team that's very well known for success in the postseason and Bishop Miege. And a lot of teams will kind of look at a team across the other sideline and go, oh no, not these guys. But it seemed like your team really embraced that challenge that they were up against and really rose to that occasion and made a point that this year was going to be different.
You know, the weird thing about that whole statement and people's assumption is we didn't have any idea who Bishop Miege was. I mean, I've coached in 6A and 5A my whole life. Kapaun's been in 5A, and Bishop Miege has never been a word we've said until that game week. Now I'm quite aware that they've had a great program, great coach. That guy's a wonderful coach, does a great job. I think it's Coach Holmes. But it did not intimidate us in the least. We were used to playing big schools like Northwest and schools would double the population. So the Bishop Miege thing didn't mean a thing to us as a team because it was an unknown. Our kids had never really, I know it's going to sound weird, they never really heard of them. And that was kind of a weird thing for me because I had heard of how good they were, but, we didn't really talk about it. And I'm glad we played such a great program like that because it was a game where the kids, both teams laid it out on the field, no cheap shots, just playing good football, 2 Catholic schools getting after it, which was a pleasure.
Well, I know you mentioned you're well aware of them, and you've been coaching at a high level for a long time, especially here in Wichita with West and Northwest before. With this group and with the era of football kind of being different, styles change and everything, how do you feel like your past in coaching and your history kind of helped to mold and grow this team into a state title contender now? Because times change and philosophies change, and I'm sure you've had to learn and adjust over time. So what tweaks maybe did you have to make for a group like this?
Well, coming into getting the job at Cape, and one thing I did know is I did not think they were physical, a physical bunch of guys. My first couple practices, I'm thinking we got to teach these guys toughness. And that's the first thing we did. We instilled the I formation, tough, hard-nosed running the football. And we had to make them better on defense too. The mindset, the culture is what we had to change, of knowing that, hey, we can win. And if we work hard enough and stay together as a team, we will win. And, going into that Miege game, it was a tough matchup for them because we are an I formation. You can't find me another team that runs the I formation. We're old school football. We're on the fullback trap. Their defense is built for stopping the pass. They got pass rushers. They run up the field. Our defense, we want you to run. Our offense wants you to run up the field. So it was a great matchup for us because, like, their 3 tech was an unbelievable football player, but he was running up the field. And that just let us run the trap. They haven't seen the trap all year. So those types of things really helped us. They were built for the pass, 40-mile-an-hour wind. It was freezing. So everything just played out our way that night. And it's about time because our coaching staff and myself, we've had some tough breaks. Several times we've been in the quarterfinals, we lose our best running back. Or when I was at West, we were in the quarterfinals and 2 or 3 of my kids would get kicked out of school for one reason or another. So we just haven't had all the things line up, but definitely it has lined up at the end of this year, and we're very happy it did because it was a monkey off Kapaun's back and a monkey off my back, no doubt about it. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but that's not why we coach. We coach to change lives, make them better Christian men, and we want to win too. We believe that winning is important because we think it stair steps into what you do in life, what kind of man you become, what kind of husband you become, and all these things are just the beginning of them stepping into manhood.
Well, tell me a little bit about the growth of this group then over the course of the year. How'd they grow into being better football players, better people? I mean, you win a state championship, but it doesn't happen overnight, right? You start in the summer and maybe years before building and working. And tell us a little bit about the growth of this group that did ultimately lead to a state title then.
Well, I approached our principal, Chris Bloomer, who's also our offensive line coach. I said, look, if we really are serious about football here, we need to have a 0 hour for football players. And we met 4 days a week, 6 o'clock in the morning during the season. We lifted 5 days a week. We also lifted on Saturday. Saturday was considered our first lifting day. We've changed the mindset. Coach Tabor is our strength coach, a wonderful coach. Coach Peabody, who's now the head coach at campus, kind of got it started. He did a wonderful job in the weight room, but we think the weight room really turned it on for us. So we would lift an hour, stretch and lift for an hour, and then they'd go to class. And then we came out, but we only practiced about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours because I want them fresh. I want them enjoying practice, kind of like the Indiana coach. His philosophy is quick practices, make them hungry. But definitely our kids turned it around in the weight room. And I have to tell you, I'm not responsible for that. Coach Tabor and Coach Peabody both did a great job. I support them, and I push that part. But every place I've been, we've had a good weight program. When I was at Northwest, we had an outstanding weight program. In West High, we had a really good weight program. But it all starts there. And just we bring them in every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and we start lifting after the game, and then we go watch film. We're done by 8:45. But it's a 6-day a week thing for us at Kapaun, two times a day, Monday through Thursday, with the early morning weights and then the practice. So it's definitely a culture thing. But the biggest turnaround was when we were behind Northwest 28-0 in the first quarter. And my quarterback, Cole Rapp, tells the guys, guys, they can't stop us. We're going to wear them down. And I'm thinking, they're wearing me out right now. They were very talented. And I'm thinking, how can I shorten this game so we can get out of here? But our kids responded. I don't know if you saw it or knew anything about it, but we won in overtime. We went for 2. I called timeout right beforehand. I said, guys, we're not going to tie this game again, are we? And they all go, no, coach, we're going to run blast right. And I go, okay, good enough. Let's go do it. And we scored. That was huge because Northwest was the most talented by far team that we played, and we were able to beat them last year. So that was a big win for us.
Moments like that, to me, there's always like this championship moment before the championship, right?
Yep.
Like, and it could happen week 1, it could happen in the state championship, but there's always a moment that teams rise to the occasion. That really feels like it, because that's a time where you're down 28-0. You could roll over and start again next week and move on. But to have a group like that that's confident and wants the challenge to go and fight back and play, that had to tell you a lot about the group that you had as a head coach, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. I knew I had a good group of guys, but I knew Northwest was good. But when we didn't quit, and Northwest had the ball inside the 5 2 more times and didn't score. So we stepped it up, and that was definitely the game that propelled us into the season we had. And then the next game that we had was Wellington, and Wellington beat us down there last year at their place, and that's not a very fun place to play. I mean, I'll leave it at that. And they came up to our place, and our guys were like, guys, it ain't going to happen tonight. You guys can probably better go home now. And that's the way we played that night. And that was an inspiring game. And then from that game on, I thought, wow, it's going to be tough to beat us. And the only person that can mess this team up would be me. And I wasn't going to let that happen because it had been so long, 43 years coaching and close, and never getting the job done. I always felt like it let my team down several years that we were close, and that's something that you take with you. Close losses, or I felt responsible because I've never had a team that didn't. I've had one that didn't lay down everything they had every game, and I always felt, man, I just let these guys down. I didn't want to let these guys down.
Well, that's awesome to hear, Coach. But I want to ask you as well, as you and your team are back to work this summer and things are getting started for this fall, and week 1 will be here before you know it. So tell us a little bit about, the progress that the team has made or needs to continue to make sure they're ready to get back to it this fall again.
Well, I have the best quarterback around, and not everybody knows how good he really is for us. Cole Rapp is an amazing quarterback, option quarterback. He's a winner and a leader. And Ken Huff, I mean, the guy just went to Arizona State a week ago and got running back of the camp. So, he's dealing with some great competition there. He's back, got 2 or 3 offensive linemen back. So far, we had a team camp with Southeast Campus and Mays, and we definitely held our own. Felt good about what happened there. But defensively, Kapaun, that's where we hang our hat. We got to be able to play great defense and stay in games. and that all defense is assignment and desire. And Kapaun kids are very smart in the classroom and smart on the field, and they always have great desire. So we normally have a good chance on defense, and we return several of those guys that are looking pretty good. Our defensive staff works well with them. We're going to be a solid football team this year. We think that we got a chance to do pretty well in 5A. So we're excited about that. Every year, you know what? I'm in the second greatest profession there is. The number one in my book is being a preacher or a priest. The number two is coaching. So I feel very blessed and fortunate every year I'm able to do this. And I don't look forward or even look at a retirement date. Now, my wife, we just got back from Mexico. She's wanting to go back. I said, you want to go back? You go back on your own. I'm back for the summer. I can't wait to watch our guys in the Shrine Bowl, Landon and Nick. But football is, besides my church, is where my heart is. My family, obviously, is number one. But football and Kapaun football is very dear to me. And I'm looking forward to the season.
Well, I wanted to ask you as well about the Shrine Bowl, because it's one of my favorite things in high school football. Just one night in the summer for everyone to get back together and to watch all these great athletes play, to support a good cause. And I know it goes a lot deeper than just the game too. There's the camp and all the great stuff that goes into it. But to have kids, multiple kids, be a part of that this year, tell us a little bit about how exciting that is for them and for your program to have more kids represented in an event like that.
Well, it's a feather in our cap, no doubt. I think we've had one kid every year since I've been there make the team. Maybe one we didn't because he was going off to college early. But the two guys that are representing Kapaun are two great young men. They're the types that you would want your daughter to date. Wonderful kids, and they understand the importance of the game, understand what is being played for. It's a lot bigger than them or the team. It's about raising money and awareness for the Shrine Hospital. I've been fortunate enough to coach in several of those games, and it is a great honor. And each one of those years I was able to coach, I had great experiences with my players as well as the other team's players. But to play in that game is definitely the pinnacle, and our kids know it, and they'll represent us well, and they understand the importance of that football game.
Now, Coach Schartz, again, appreciate the time for joining us today, and I'm glad I didn't catch you while you're in Mexico, so it's a little easier to get a hold of you that way.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I just got a couple quick fun questions. The one I love to ask coaches is, who is their biggest coaching mentor? Who did you learn the most from that helped develop you into the coach you are today?
Well, my high school football coach was Dennis Cavalier at Southeast High School. We won 3 state championships in a row during that time. A lot of people don't remember that time, 1976, 7, and 8. And he was my coach my senior year. I once told him, walking out final day of school, he says, my nickname was Deemer. He goes, "Hey, Deemer, what are you going to do with your life?" I said, "I'm going to come back here and be a head football coach." And my goal my whole life was to be the head football coach at Southeast. Just never happened. But he was one of my guys that I looked to. But the guy that I look to the most is my college baseball coach, Jack Brossman. He taught me what a real man is. He taught me what a competitor is. He taught me that you can compete and also live a Christian life. He taught me all the little things that go along with being a man and being a coach. And I wanted to be just like him, you know, and I've fallen way short because he's the pinnacle of it. But he has taught me a lot. And I went and visited him last summer with 2 or 3 of my teammates, and it was a wonderful thing. But those two guys definitely are the guys that poured into me. I had a lot of great coaches at Southeast High School. They all poured into me. That's what I try to do too.
Awesome. I love that. Coaches learning from other coaches. That's like my favorite thing to hear about. I'll have to pick your brain about that some more next time we have you on. Next question I got, though, is all the athletes that you've coached. I know you've had great ones, especially here at Kapaun over the last several years, but is there ever one athlete that you've coached that stands above the rest, the kind of person, the kind of athlete they were? Just, is there anybody that really stands out to you when you think about the best that you've ever coached?
Well, they're all pretty near and dear. The one that did the most athletically was Chris Harper. He played at Kansas State, had a couple years in the NFL. But the thing about Chris Harper, he's even a better kid than he was an athlete. He walked the walk, he talked the talk, and he was a wonderful young man. That was my kid at Northwest. My kid at West High was Idris Elias. That's Amari's dad. He was an outstanding football player for us, and just a great guy. And I'm not done at Kapaun, so I'm not going to comment on that one. But I've had a lot of great players: Earl Henry, Scotty Van Orden, Eugene Langford, ton of them, and they've all done very well. Michael Irvin went to Wyoming, and he became a lawyer. So we've had a lot of success stories at places that you're not supposed to have success stories, which was Wichita West. But I tell you what, those guys there were like a bunch of pit bulldogs. They were loyal, but you didn't want to cross them. And they're doing very well in life. So, yeah, it was I've had some good guys. I can't name them all, but those come to mind real quick.
That's awesome, Coach. I could pick your brain all day, but I got to let you go. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to visiting with you more this fall as we get back into the season.
Thank you, and I'm really proud of myself for getting on this website thing, whatever is stream.com. I feel like I've hit the pinnacle of all this stuff. So thanks for teaching me.
Oh, you figured it out yourself. I got to tell our listeners, when I texted you the link, you said, I hope it works. I hope I can get it. You had no problems at all. So there's never an excuse there. You can figure it out. So.
One push of the button, I was there. Thank
Coach,
you.
Thank you very much. That's Weston Schartz, the head coach of the Kapaun Crusaders. We'll take a break and be back with more right after this. Wrapping up our show today here on 92.3 Preps, I'm Jackson Schneider. Thanks so much for tuning in as we continue to grow. We're 5 weeks into this show, and things just keep getting better. We're messing around with our designs on the YouTube page. Our podcast platform is getting up and running as well, where we now have gotten it to the point where we can upload the podcast audio to our website, but we're waiting on getting that button added for you. You can go to our ESPNWichita.com website right now, and all of our shows are podcasted. There's past interviews from The Pulse with Pat Strathman, the Shane Dennis Show, also the program with Soren Petro, and New Day with SSJ. All those podcasts are there. And here very, very soon, we will be added there, I promise you. Everything is good on the back end. We just got to get them to connect to the website, and then we'll make it a lot easier for you all to tune in. And I know I've been working on that for a little bit, but I'm not the techiest of people, I will admit. And so it's been a little bit more of a challenge than I thought it would be. But don't worry, we're getting it all worked out, and we're going to, again, give you ample ways to tune into our show than just this YouTube page. But also, you can check us out on our social media pages as well. See some clips from some of the interviews. Those have done really well. I've seen some people really like some of the quotes that we pull from those as well. So check us out on our social media at ESPN Wichita for some little tidbits of our show as well. And just to help us build it up, like us, follow us, share us, everything you can do to help us grow this thing and do some really cool stuff. But again, appreciate each of you all for tuning in, and appreciate our guests today, Nate Schmitt and Weston Schartz, two honorary ESPYs nominees for what we're doing right now. And again, nominations are still open for now. They will close at the end of the day. So this is your call to action. Go to ESPNWichita.com/ESPYs. Nominate your coaches, nominate your athletes, nominate your teams, and try to get your people in as finalists for our ESPYs here coming up. And again, our nominations close Friday night, but our finalists will be announced on Monday morning. And then from there, voting will open once again for our finalists to see who will take home some hardware for our honorary ESPYs. And we also want to shout out some of our great sponsors for that: Broad Stroke, You Build It Wichita, Eaton Roofing and Exteriors, the YMCA, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but lots of great sponsors for our honorary ESPYs, making that all happen. And again, you have your say, again, on the nominees and on the voting coming here soon. But again, thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in, for submitting your nominees. I hope more will still come. And again, thank you to our partners, Prochaska Howell and Prochaska Law, and again, the YMCA, Eaton Roofing and Exteriors, Broad Stroke, and also You Build It Wichita. So great partners of ours for helping us make this happen, for some really cool honorees and accolades for high school athletics here in the Wichita area. But again, I'm Jackson Schneider. That is going to wrap up our show for today. Back next week with more great interviews from some nominees and potential finalists from our honorary ESPYs. You can look forward to that again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time here on ESPN Wichita's 92.3 Preps.